Saturday, June 14, 2014. This is Headlines from the Dunker Bunker, your weekly audio source for all things 1689.
Headlines for the week.
Howdy, y'all. This is one of your co-hosts here at the Confessing Baptist Podcast, Jason Delgado. And
I am Junior Duran. Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening.
Whatever time zone you're in.
Yeah.
The wide, wide world. Or whatever time zone you listen in, right? Because I'm sure, I would listen much later. Must be part of our week. This is part of our earliest edition. We're 7:26 Central Standard Time. So, but we have lots of other things to get to today. Like Junior, you have your men's study you go to.
Yep.
There's 4 World Cup games later on today.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I'm curious how many other I guess football fans are out there, and I'm not talking about American football where they wear all those pads and take breaks in 5 seconds.
Don't get me started.
I know. Okay. I better watch out. See, I'm not really a sports fan. The only sport I follow is soccer, but I don't follow like a specific team or all throughout the year. I just follow the World Cup, and so it's nice because it's only once every 4 years. But man, so far the games have been excellent. So I'm really excited for the World Cup this year.
Yep.
But we are not a World Cup podcast. Too bad, 'cause I could talk about that for a long time. We are trying to bring you news and events and updates from the world of 1689ers. So I want to start off with books, and I actually have a little book sounder. I need to bring that back. Where's my book sounder? That's right. If you love books, you don't want to be interrupted while reading a good book, and how hard that is in our modern day of technology. But also in our modern day of technology, we get Kindles, and because of Kindles, we can sometimes get some of these books at a lot cheaper rate. So there was a new book that came out December 9th, 2013. We just heard about it this week at the it was Founders was actually advertising it a lot during the Southern Baptist Conference, which took place this past week. And this title is called Ready for Reformation. And here's the description. Tom Nettles believes that Southern Baptist churches are still in the midst of Reformation. Reformation that begins with the conservative resurgence but continues today. Reformation that began with the conservative resurgence but continues today. It continues because Reformation requires much more than the recovery of biblical authority. Reformation must penetrate deep. It requires time, patience, sacrifice, and honest self-criticism. Modern-day reformers must enact a serious re-engagement with doctrinal and practical ideas of the past, for failure to do so may result in an aborted reformation. And so this book it's funny because Junior and I both saw it, and we both kind of thought it was a booklet or a little pamphlet, but it's actually a 164-page book.
Yeah.
And it is still on sale. They started to sell earlier in the week when the conference started, but it's still on sale now. So you can get it for 99 cents, or that's 77 pence if you use that kind of currency there. So
yeah, there's different Reformed Baptist historians out there, and Tom Nettles. Each one has their own specialty. I think Tom Nettles' specialty is Southern Baptist and Reformed confessional baptism, etc. So you want to get that. Especially if it's 164 pages, there's probably a lot of good info in there. I haven't read it yet, but for 99 cents, I'm going to pick that up. Come on.
There you go. No brainer.
So speaking of Reformed Baptist historians, last week we introduced you to the newest Journal of Baptist Studies, thanks to Jason and Twitter, right? And it was published by Baptist Studies Online. And that is an outreach of California Baptist University, I believe, which is in Riverside, California. And I love their picture on their website. Like, I want to go there. I like that building.
Right?
I like that building. Anyway, in 2009, Volume 3, they published a roundtable discussion of Baptist origins, and they had 3 views, which included the succession view of Baptist history by James Duval, the spiritual kinship theory of Baptist origins by Glenn Jonas, and then Dr. James Renahan with Truly Reformed in Great Measure, a brief defense of the English separatist origins of modern Baptists. And I read that. I think we have a audio on that too, that we sound geckoed that. But it's really good. And again, it's Dr. Renahan, so you know it's going to be good. Want to check that out? Also, I don't know, I guess ashamed or embarrassed that we hadn't done this next book before because I thought we had. And anyway, so last week, we featured again the Journal of Baptist Studies, by Baptist Studies Online, and in that article, there was an article by Ian Clary on Alexander Carson. He's one of my favorite Reformed Baptists. He's a former Irish Presbyterian, converted to cradle baptism, and again, I thought we had finished this like a long time ago, but we had to put this book up. So we give you from Alexander Carson. The free ebook is Baptism and Its Mode and Subjects by Dr. Alexander Carson. Again, he's a former Irish Presbyterian. Really good. I would read it for the memoir, the beginning, and then he gets into the burden of proof, chapter 1. Where does our burden of proof lie for baptizing infants, and then chapter 2, the mode of baptism. Chapter 3, the subjects of baptism. He is a Greek exegete. Exegete, is that the word I'm looking for? Scholar.
Yep.
So in that post, I linked to a paper delivered by Ian Clary at the Andrew Fuller Conference back, and I think it's 2009. So I would recommend you all listen to that Ian Clary lecture first, and then read that book. I think you'll get a lot more out of the book that way, and especially out of Alexander Carson's life. Next Friday, I'm going to put up another book by an individual who was also a former. He was a Scottish Presbyterian, became a Reformed Baptist, and I think he's unique. And I want you all to tell me what's unique about him. If you think I'm wrong, then
you'll recant.
Wrong, let me know, because I want to be wrong on this. But I think he's unique, and I want you all to tell me if I'm wrong about that. That's next week.
Oh, teaser.
Yeah.
Junior with the teasers always. Yeah, well, also this week we, as always, posted lots of audio and video resources that we discovered this week. And okay, here was this one's just plain out funny. I mean, they get into theology eventually. It's an hour and a half podcast. I'm sure a lot of the listeners may be familiar with the Reformed Pubcast. I've seen a lot of the same people that listen to ours, commenting on theirs and whatnot. But I also think a lot of our listeners may really not like the Reformed Pubcast. And so it's totally okay. It's a very different kind of podcast. They talk about social issues, and they talk about anything, video games, nerd stuff. They talk about brews a lot. And so that may not attract certain listeners, so that's totally fine. But they had James White on as a guest, and it was funny because they talk a lot about Star Trek. They talk about video games. They get into baptism and talking about the New Covenant and baptismal issues like that. And it is a hilarious episode. And it also went great because the week before that we had James White just behind the scenes talking about Alpha and Omega Ministries, his testimony, things like that. And this was a behind the scenes of his nerd life, I guess, if you will. So he's a big Star Trekkie, or he's a Trekkie, big Star Trek nerd.
Right.
And it was funny. Did you have a chance to listen to that, Junior?
I haven't yet, but I want to. And
dude,
apparently, like Deep Space Nine comes up, which I'm not a fan of. Like I love all the Star Trek series. There's like 4 of them, there's 5, but the DS9 I have not seen, so I couldn't get into it, and neither could Patrick.
Yeah, it was interesting because they did bring up one of those episodes, and it's an episode I actually hadn't seen before, so I'm curious to see it now. I barely know much about Star Trek, but the stuff I've seen I enjoy. So I've always been more of a Star Wars nerd. So, but now I realize in my older age that the two can coexist, and so I've stopped tribalism and my sectarianism, and
it's not either or.
It's not either or. One's a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The other one future. So.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Yeah. One's past, one's future. There you go.
So they just sweetly comply. I have no need to reconcile friends, Spurgeon. But I don't think he was talking about that. But anyways, if it's the only Reformed Pubcast episode you listen to, you got to hear it. It is so funny, so funny. But anyways, we're actually going to have those guys. We actually interviewed them on our podcast, the Reformed Pubcast guys. They're fellow Reformed Baptists. They're kind of just getting into it and kind of exploring it. So it's an interesting take. Some may, well, they themselves would say, they're new Calvinists. They came from that new Calvinist branch, and they're exploring and going deeper into Reformed theology. So. Oh,
that's right. That's right. So yeah, they're on the journey, as you will.
Right. So they're actually pretty brave guys because they recorded their conversations they have, and sometimes, I mean, when I remember back when I was kind of exploring some of these things, I made lots of mistakes, and sometimes they have too, and they've admitted it. And the next week they'll come on and they're like, "Oh man, we said this about the regulative principle of worship. We had no idea what we were talking about. Sorry, you guys, thanks for correcting us." Like they're kind of learning and growing and taking a lot of people with them. I think that's what makes their podcast so attractive. Is
So I haven't heard it yet. Are they drinking on the show?
yes. They give reviews of brews and one of them even does some home brew. So yeah, it's called Reform Pubcast, not podcast, Pubcast. So that'll give you a hint. But anyways, so we posted that audio. That's a very unique side of James White you may never see again. It was great. But we also posted Tom Ascol. He was in, if you remember, he was in Singapore. Yeah, and this conference was a faithful pastor. Did you want to tell us about this one, Junior? Or?
So he was there April 29th, May 1st. So pretty recent this year. Again, the conference with a faithful pastor. It's a church leaders conference in Singapore, and I wish I could have gone. All I do is Singapore. Conference audio. So there are 8 sessions. Session 1, the pastor's inner life, his reformational mentality. Session 2, again, his devotion. Session 3, his emotions. Session 4, his mindset. And then Session 5, on Christ. Christ is our message. Session 6, Christ shapes our ministry. I think that continues in Session 7. And then Session 8, the pastor as a defender of the faith. So it's Dr. Tom Ascol lecturing at a pastor's conference in Singapore, talking about the pastor and Christ. And so that's it's going to be good stuff.
Indeed. I have further news about these guys in Singapore, but it'll actually get brought up later when we talk about one of the books or one of the Ask Reformed Baptist questions. So I'll save it for them. So teaser. Okay. That's good. So stay tuned. Okay, I think James White being on the Reformed Pubcast, it just tickled his funny bone because then he recorded Radio Free Geneva, which everyone loves. Radio Free Geneva, and
that's my favorite, dude.
Yeah, there's actually a revamped intro, which is excellent. Because they couldn't play the other song on YouTube because they would.
That's right. Copyright issues. Yeah.
The new intro is excellent. They did a good job. It's faithful to the old one, but it's new and fresh. It's still a Mighty Fortress. But man, he was hilarious. Like he started off saying, "Well, I know a lot of people will hear me on these Radio Free Genevas, and they'll be like, you're kind of snippy, you can be a little mean on Radio Free Genevas, and so today we're gonna have an extra nice one. And how nice is it gonna be? Talk about flowers, and he's wearing a pink shirt. He's wearing a flower bow tie, and he has this presentation on flowers, and then it says like underneath that it says "Have a nice day." And I don't know how he went so long. He had this cheesy smile on his face. And, he was talking so gently and sweetly. like if you could watch it for 5 minutes without laughing, you have no heart probably. You have no funny aspect.
No funny bone. Yeah.
I don't know, but it's hilarious. You have to listen to it. I mean, he gets into basic Reformed theology. He talks about tulip and some other ways people are wanting to talk about that. Roses, poinsettia. There's even a new book out called Proof where they want to talk about that. And I don't think I don't think any of those acronyms are going to last. But anyways, these are sides of James White that are very unique that came out recently that are just great. I love them. So, but anyways, moving on to our blog post. You want to tell me about that?
Yeah. So Jeff Thomas over in the UK had a post on the importance and means of knowing God. And again, Jeff Thomas writes over at Banner Truth blog. This is what he says. So here's the introductory paragraph. There is a total ignorance of God, not only in the land, but in the gospel church today. If a Martian came to our town and listened to the activities that many churches set out with enthusiasm, then the extraterrestrial would think the purpose of the church was raising money for people overseas, or planning denominational union, or putting pressure on the government to raise taxes to give to the old and poor, or to refute racism, or resisting people who criticize homosexual activity. Those emphases, all part of a misguided conspiracy to marginalize the essence of true religion and to major in minor details. The church exists in order to address both the disciples of Jesus and the world in which they live with good news of God Almighty, who He is and what He has done and is doing and will do. We exist to be reconciled to Him and worship Him as He requires, and to know and love Him more and more. He then gives us some means by which we may grow in knowing God. So five ways in which we may grow in knowing God: by the Bible, by sitting under a Bible-believing ministry. Number two, by singing the great hymns or the Psalms. Number three, by reading the most helpful Christian books. Number four, by keeping company with people who've experienced God's love. And then by number five, by meditating upon God. So that's just a summary of what he put up. You want check out that link.
Yeah, and that was posted over on Banner of Truth, their blog, which always has such great stuff. So. Oh, I lost you, Junior. Were you talking?
Oh no, what, dude?
What happened? Try again.
Don't lose me, Jason. Don't let go.
Let it go. Sky. What were you saying?
Oh no, so good stuff. I disagree with him with 1 point, but other than that, really good points. Other than that,
there you go.
There you go.
Junior's entitled to his opinion. We're Americans. We live in America.
America.
All
right. So for our Ask a Reformed Baptist,
yeah.
we have two questions.
I got a sounder for that one, I think.
What's that?
Sounder for Ask a Reformed Baptist.
Oh, okay.
Ask a Reformed Baptist.
Oh, that's right.
It's a deep voice guy saying it all cool style. Some crazy math rock in the background. Anyways, go for it.
Yeah, so this post came up. This is an older post from the Andrew Fuller blog.
Yes.
But it was reposted at Log College. And I thought, this is one of those posts again, I thought we already did, but so I emailed Jason. It came up on the Confessing Baptist, and I emailed Jason, hey, didn't we already do this? And Jason's all, no, I searched, I didn't see it.
I really thought we did too, and I was looking for it, and I was like, and I googled the names on our site, and none of them came up. I was like, oh.
Well, so Jason emails me that response, right? And so and then I roll up my sleeve, I crack my knuckles, I'm like, well, let me show Jason how to search properly. And so I get on Confessing Baptist search too, and I couldn't find it either, man. So I guess I was surprised. So anyway,
someone sabotaged us. I don't know, because I mean I know we posted this before.
Right? Okay, so but the Log Cabin published it and posted it recently, and so we took it on, and so this is good. And I'm telling you we did this, but anyway, so if this might sound familiar to you, we couldn't find it, but so Dr. Haken responds to a question: what top 4 recommended books on baptism? What would you recommend? Yeah, if you were asked to pick 4 books on baptism, what would they be? And first of all, David Kingdom, Children of Abraham, a Reformed Baptist View of Baptism, the Covenant, and Children. And that is published by Carey Publications, 1973. It's a good book. It's out of print. I got mine on Amazon or one of those used book sites. Like, is it ABE, one of those used book sites you might? I got it used from somewhere. It's more like that is a booklet. Not that many pages, but it's good. Also, is Paul K. Jewett, Infant Baptism and the Covenant of Grace. There are older works by authors like Alexander Carson that are worthwhile, but these two are the best from the past century, says Dr. Haken. Now, if you know any Reformed Pentecostal Baptists, they don't like this Jewett book, so that's the more reason to encourage you to get that and read it. because they'll say, well, Jewett became this. Like later in life, Jewett became something. I don't know. He became a heretic or something like that later in his life. That's what they'll tell you. So, but that's not an argument against the book itself at that time. You know what I mean? So, for example, so if a Reformed Pentecostal Baptist becomes a Reformed Cradle Baptist, does that mean that his writings before he became a Baptist were irrelevant? I mean, I don't think that I don't think an argument follows. So, anyway, just some more reason to get that book. And so, thirdly, for historical discussions on early Christian baptism, he would recommend 2 small books. One of them is Stander and Lowe's Baptism in the Early Church, published by Reformation Today Trust and the Association of Reformed Baptist Churches in 2004. He calls it a gem. I have that. It's really good as well. It gets into the art and to the actual architecture of baptisms in the early church. So there's a reason they did that. And then finally, number 4, again, Bueller, Baptism 3 Aspects, published in Ontario by Joshua Press in 2004. It's a much overlooked piece that helpfully deals with archaeological evidence pertaining to early Christian baptismal practice. So those are all good books. You do want to get those. One of those is out of print. So if you can find it, good luck.
Yeah, the one that's out of print. So that's the news I had from earlier from that Singapore church. The same guy who sent us the info about here's this conference upcoming with Dr. Askell in Singapore. And the same guy who sent us the audio when it was done to post, I was like, man, thanks, this guy's great. I love when people help us out like that. That's how we get most of our content, actually. He told me, he's like, oh, in case you didn't know, I saw that in the Baptibot feed, because this was actually before I posted this. He just saw it in the Baptibot feed. He's like, that David Kingdon book. He's like, we actually asked him if we could republish it. And he said yes. And so if you're in Singapore, you can get it for $6. And I was like, well, man, shipping will probably make that book pretty expensive to get it over here.
Yeah.
I was like, ask him if is there any way we can turn that into an ebook of some sort. And so he's working on that. And so that potentially would be like great news, if we could get that out in like an ebook format, because then you could sell it wherever and you wouldn't have to worry about running out. So.
I want to look up if that's on Google Books or not.
It might be. It wasn't. But sometimes sometimes your Google search skills outweigh mine, and you diss us all. So so use your Google Foo, channel your Google Foo, and see if you can figure it out.
Okay.
So, but also in Ask Reformed Baptist Question, we had the question, can we condemn Islamic jihad when the Bible condones holy war? And this one was answered by Dr. Bob Gonzalez, and this was actually part of a Midwest Center for Theological Studies Old Testament introduction. What he does in that class is he gives you an introduction to the Old Testament, and then he deals with objections to it. And so in next week's Ask Reformed Baptist, for example, he's going to answer the question about the imprecatory Psalms. What do we do with those? It seems contrary. Jesus is telling us to pray for our enemies, but in the psalmist here is, wanting him dead, basically, wanting God to strike vengeance on him immediately. What do we do about that? And so he answers that question. But this week we highlighted the question, can we condemn Islamic jihad when the Bible condones holy war? And here's just a brief intro from it. He writes, how can the Christian theologically and ethically justify God's command to exterminate the Canaanites? And can we distinguish the holy wars of the Old Testament from Islamic jihad? People argue, quote, jihad is totally contrary to what Christ taught when he told Peter to put away his sword or when he told individuals to turn the other cheek. Unlike Muslims, Christians have no command to advance their religion by killing unbelievers. Quite the opposite. End quote. The problem with this is the same problem that characterizes the arguments of many Christian apologists. It is not what they say, it is what they often fail to say. They are quick to point out the many New Testament passages that portray the gentleness of Christian evangelism, but they rarely ever acknowledge several Old Testament passages in which God commands the Israelites to use violence against entire populations of people in an effort to get control of their lands, for example, the land of Canaan. And then from there, he goes on to cite that, and he begins to interact with that. So it's a really good, I think it's like an hour and 10 minutes or so. Very thorough. Dr. Gonzalez is really good in Old Testament studies. So you will want to check that out if that is a pressing question on your mind. And you know what? It's a good question to ask now, too, because this is a lot of stuff you hear even from our modern cultural issues. They're saying, well, some of those ethics you Christians are bringing in our Old Testament, how come you don't follow the Old Testament command to, it's the shellfish argument, or what about killing a whole nation like this?
Right.
So it may seem like, well, I'm not going to interact with the jihadist and have to defend it, but the argument will come up in one way or another of what do you do with some of these Old Testament passages? How do you reconcile them with I'm using air quotes with New Testament passages and whatnot. So, because as we said, good friends don't need to reconcile. So, but do you have anything on that, Junior, or do you want me to roll the epic Baptibot sound?
I would just add, so again, this is the highlights, headlines show, so there are other stuff that we posted during the week, but these are just some of the big stuff.
Yep, and here's some stuff from the Baptibot.
Now some headlines from the Baptibot.
All right, Jude, you want to tell us some of the headlines that you saw from the Baptibot that you want to share with us?
Yeah. So, okay, real quick, headlines there. JD and what's JD's last name? JD.
Now that you put it like that, yeah, you said JD Hall, and it's not JD Hall. That's a pastor up in Montana who does JD. I have his grandpa's book right here. Hold on, I'll be right back. It's gonna drive me nuts if I don't know. I should know it, but you just threw me off.
And Billy Lanehart and JD the guy.
Warren. It's Warren. JD
Warren, yes.
Man, that was horrible. That was recorded. Great. Now everyone knows I forgot his last name.
Yeah, episode 19 is up with the Cradle Christian Fellowship. It's on Christianity and communism. They just did a series on Christianity and the arts, and I think we might need to interview them, those two, for an episode coming up. Also, John English Lee over at the Founders blog on pre-Puritan Sabbatarians, really good stuff. Like, is there such a thing as Sabbath before the Puritans? And then he gets into Martin Bucer. Evan Burns over at the Andrew Fuller Center on the Key of Prayer. Jeremy Walker, Jeremy Walker. What's up with Jeremy Walker? He's a killer. This guy is good, right?
He's a killer. Oh, okay. I was like, in what sense of killer do you mean?
Like, he kills it.
You mean a violator of the Sixth Commandment, or?
Jeremy Walker, read this post. Come, you children, and I want to get into it. No, I'll let you click on the link.
Wait. So I assume you read that post.
I did, and there's a summary of what he did at the bottom. Where let me see. Can I read that? Let me see.
Oh, like the questions that come up with.
Oh yeah. So okay, so
what was
my opinion, real quick, of this post is it's about children. Kids who aren't catechized have these questions. If you have your kid if you train up your kid in the catechism, I think they'll be okay. When you don't train them up in catechisms, I think they come up with these questions I had as a new Christian. These are good common sense questions, I think.
Right.
Yeah, good post. Jeremy Walker, Reformation 21, Come You Children, and Catechisms. Conrad Mbewe.
Wait, hold on real quick. It's interesting because you brought up catechisms, and I remember one of the arguments for catechisms is it not only tells us the answers to these questions, but it tells us even the proper questions to ask.
Yeah.
And that's something you see. I mean, some of those questions that people come up with out of curiosity, like, well, who baptized God? I think I remember seeing that one, or things like that. I mean, those questions are fine to ask if you're curious and want to know, but having a catechism even ask you, it shows you the right questions that are important to God Himself that He revealed in His Word.
Right.
The main things, and so it shows you that. It helps you with that. But anyways, continue on.
Okay, but yeah, so again, he's a killer over there. Conrad Mbewe. And if you're following what's going on in Africa, you already know this stuff. But his post on charismatic teaching is breeding spiritual havoc. Is breeding spiritual havoc. Again, charismatic teaching is breeding spiritual havoc. And again, that's, if you're following at all, what's going on over there. You know that's true. Pastor Jeff Riddle on a testimony of stewardship, and that is about giving, tithing, etc. Check that out. Oh, an interview from PNR, the PNR Publishing blog. It's called the blog is called I can't remember what it's called. But there's an author interview with Baruch Mouse. How would you say that, Jason?
I have no idea.
I might not even. I have to give the name of the blog because it's called Press. The name of the PNR blog, publishing blog, is called Press, and that was Kim interviewing Baruch, who's been around for a long time. Grace Baptist Partnership over in the UK. Has a series on effective evangelism, so you want to check that out as well. And Jason, okay, so that was the BaptistBox highlights. Again, just highlights. Jason, I don't want you to tell people about the giveaway because I want to be the only person who enters it.
Ha! That would fall under the category of selfishness, brother.
Oh.
No, yeah, but that last one, that effective evangelism, that's actually Monday's audio. I already have that queued up for Monday as well. So,
okay.
We will feature that Monday, but yeah, I'll put it in here also. You can get you can do it. Yes, the giveaway. You can win 2 volumes.
Don't tell them.
I feel compelled to, because this is the purpose of our site. You can win 2 volumes from the Early Church Fathers series, which the general editor of that is Dr. Michael Haykin.
Yep.
So for the June giveaway, this is Christian Focus Publishing, I believe. I don't even know. Yeah, is it? Okay, good. I guessed rightly. They're featuring the first 2 volumes of their brand new Early Church Fathers series. The focus of the series is to highlight the magnificent impact that these fathers of the early church made for our world today. So the one of the books is Basil of Caesarea, and the second is Patrick of Ireland. It's funny because I actually won a Patrick of Ireland for another giveaway, and I wound up giving it to Patrick, our Patrick, who has Irish background. So I thought that was fun. But yeah, so he got that in the mail. So there's 4 days left to enter that, to free entry, all that stuff. So you want to check that out.
But take your time. Take your time, though.
Yeah, take your. I mean, if you do it in 5 days, Junior won't mind.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. So some highlights from Twitter, which is funny because my phone broke Wednesday,
Right.
and it still broke. Like I went yesterday, tried to get it fixed. Well, first day I tried to fix it myself. Second day I finally took it to the place, and it still broke. I'm waiting for a phone in the mail, which is lame. I thought I could get one there, but anyways, I have not been following Twitter very much like I usually do. Like usually I keep up with everything, but especially with the World Cup being on, like if our posts go down by 50%, it's because of the World Cup. So our posting regularity will go back up in the middle
For the
of
month
July.
of June and a little bit of July.
Yeah, in the middle of July, we'll get back to normal. But right now, my main focus is World Cup. So sorry, I love the World Cup. But some Twitter highlights I did see, and these were all coming out of from the Southern Baptist Convention. Founders had one of those booths at the exhibitors hall. I always have trouble saying that word. And they were tweeting out that they were doing interviews, which I thought was interesting. I was like, wait, and then some people took pictures of them interviewing certain guys. Like they interviewed David Dockery. It was Tom Askell interviewing these men, and then Tom Askell also interviewed Kevin Smith. And so I'm interested to see how these come out. I asked founders, I was like, oh, what are these? Are you going to make these available? He's like, yes, we're gonna have a founders podcast, and we'll put it out on our blog. So that was really exciting. I'm always excited to see more Reformed Baptist guys putting out podcasts and media like this. So it is the wave of the future, I think. But anyways, so I'm excited for that. We look forward to that, and we'll let you know when that comes out. Also, Southern Baptist Theological Seminary admissions, they did a Throwback Friday, and they had this old school picture of Dr. Michael Haken, and he's just as jolly as he could be. And the caption they put on it is he's just as jolly today when he's teaching church history. And it's just him. He's wearing this cool old school hat. It's in black and white, and he has this old coat on. I mean, it looks so nostalgic, but you see the smile on his face, and you're like, oh yeah, that's Dr. Haken. That's the same old Haken. I mean, he looks like he's like 16 or 15 or something here, though. He looks really young. So we'll put that up on this podcast post so you can see that pic. But that was really it. Moving on to our voicemails. We actually did have a voicemail, so let me play this real quick. And we also had an email that we'll get into, but let me play this voicemail real quick.
Okay.
Hello. I would like to know how I might be able to buy one of these manuscripts of Charles Haddon Spurgeon. I went to this rare document trader. They have no phone number. I appreciate it. Maybe you could send me an email with their phone number, my email. I'd like to purchase one of these for one of my church members, please. Thank you very much.
So there you go. Yeah, it was
I think that's Dr. Renahan. That sounds like Dr. Renahan.
It definitely was, and I saw the guy's name and his.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So raredoctraders.com/contact-us is their contact page, but I'm not sure if it works because there's one of those captcha things you're supposed to enter to where it actually will get through them, but it doesn't display, and so I think that's why he couldn't email them. And there's no phone number, so it reminded me on our website. I do a lot of websites for different people. We should have a phone number on there because not everyone uses email. I mean, if you're on the internet and you see it, I would assume you have it. But in case your email is going haywire or something's not working on your site, people have a lot of plugins they put, and sometimes that messes up your site, and so your email won't display or something. I don't know. It's always smart to have a phone number too. So especially if you're a business, I guess. But their email is info@raredoctraders.com, which is kind of confusing because, anyways, I'll just leave it at that. But I sent that man his email, and I tried to join those two guys together so they could get in contact.
Good.
But yeah, it's definitely a good idea to have a phone number. I didn't think about that in our modern age. I hardly do phone calls anymore.
Right. I know.
It's crazy, man. But man,
the only phone calls I get are from your wife trying to find out where you're at.
I know. Well, yeah, I finally got out of the house yesterday. Yeah, we saw what was that movie called?
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow. That movie was great. That was a great
based on a Japanese novel.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I loved it. Loved it. Good. Great movie. Loved it. Anyways, you know what reminded me of also was, since my phone's been broken for these last 4 days, I've been actually talking to people more face to face.
Like face to face.
I love it. Like yesterday after the movie, we talked for like an hour, and then you left, but me and the other guy that were there, we talked for like 2 more hours. And I was just like, this is like old school humanity right here. Like there's no technology. We're just talking. And it's great. I loved it. It was so refreshing. So I need to get.
It is. It is. I agree. I totally agree, man.
Yeah. I mean, which is one reason I even like doing these podcasts. I get to talk with you guys. We interact. It's so much better to interact like this than in a comm box or through email.
But even better, this is when we get together and do it like a face to face. We've done it every now and then. recordings.
Yeah. We used to do that exclusively, and then we got lazy and we figured out we could just do it over Google Hangout. Just wake up and do it. Oh yeah, because I mean, there was times I'd be at Javi's door knocking, and he wasn't awake.
Oh, that's right.
Oh man,
Yeah, that's right.
I had to start late because of that. That's great.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I forgot about that.
So one of the things, here was an email question that came in also, and I'll just read it. It's from Don. It reads, Confessing Baptist and Credo Covenant Fellows. He sent this to both of us. I've been enjoying your podcasts. I do have a deep theological question for Ask a Reformed Baptist. I heard y'all talk about Baptist milk. Those are in quotes, Baptist milk. I'd love to hear y'all, and then this is in quotes also, enter the cultural conversation, end quote, on the topic. So what is your favorite style or brew? And Junior, I hear that you're actually enjoying some brew right now. Like even though it's 8 in the morning here, are you already enjoying some brew?
Yes. So I'm on a scale of 1 to 10. I would consider myself an 8 as far as coffee snobs go. I'm not a 10 or a 9. I think I'm an 8. Like 10s and 9s, like there are people out there who the temperature of the water has to be a certain temperature. They measure the amount of coffee that goes in there, and then they measure and they take notes. They have like a little booklet, like a little book, and they keep notes of the flavors and stuff. So I'm not there, but I do. Like it has to be for me. It has to be fresh roasted, and there's a local roaster here in Fort Worth, Avoca Coffee. It has to be fresh roasted, and it has to be French press, and then it has to be from a clay or a pottery cup. I don't like. Really? Yeah, I don't like any. I mean, I'll do other stuff if I'm in a hurry. So I'm an 8. So like if I'm in a hurry, I'll stop at a McDonald's or Jack in the Box and whatever. Like I don't care. But when I'm at home and I have the time on the weekend, then I want this is what I want. I want fresh roasted.
Yeah. See, I'm the same. My favorite brew style is definitely French roast. I've also enjoyed some cold brewing methods. Like my boss has this big hourglass thing that he does at work. It's a cold brewing method, and he leaves it out overnight, and the next day you add water to it, or you add ice to it, and you make iced coffee or whatever. You also can even half and half it with water because it's so potent. Like doing a cold brew, it makes it less acidic, but it also makes it stronger in caffeine. I mean, like twice as strong. And so like you could literally fill half your cup up with the cold brew coffee and half with water, and it tastes like just good smooth coffee. And then this guy talks about something about Baptist milk. I do no milk in my coffee, so I don't know what he's talking about.
Oh yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, no milk. I mean, if you're gonna drink coffee, drink coffee. Like if you're gonna drink milk with a little bit of coffee in it, then call it something else. Call it some boozy Starbucks drink. But anyways, it was actually I probably consider myself. See, I think we got more coffee snobbery because one of our old roommates was a barista at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
He ruined us, I think. So I probably consider myself a 6 because to me a cup doesn't matter, and sometimes I'll always go for things like that. But I do enjoy a good French press. It's definitely the best. I heard that the Credo Covenant guys gave away the recipe for Baptist milk 2 or 3 episodes ago. I think it was on their podcast about art that they did that. So maybe we'll revisit this question next week when we're with the other guys so we can fully understand it, because we want to, as he wrote, engage or enter the cultural conversation, which is the tagline of the Credo Covenant podcast. So that was pretty funny. But I think that's all we got for now. Junior, you have anything else?
Have a great Lord's Day. God is amazing. He answers prayers, even when you forget you asked him. On the way home, I was driving home after we left. And I was just thinking about life and thinking about, where I'm headed. And I was like, wow, man, God did answer that prayer way back when.
Oh, wow.
No, God's good. And, let's all, be image bearers through the Holy Spirit, and reflect Christ to the world. And, have a great Lord's Day tomorrow.
All right, man. Peace.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Confessing Baptist Podcast. If you would like to submit a question to the Ask a Reformed Baptist segment, please email us at confessingbaptist@gmail.com or through our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, or Google Plus page. For these links and more, please visit us at confessingbaptist.com. Soli Deo Gloria.